And I appreciate you for your information, your wealth of knowledge. It really has opened up my mind, and thousands and hundreds of people all around the world, and I really appreciate it so much. Thank you for your time.
One more question to two heroes, Luke Rudkowski, my hero dog, for the Midnight Ride, and Jim Marr. Can you guys talk a little bit about both 9/11 and the slaughter of JFK here in Dallas as examples of trauma-based mind control to traumatize the whole society and take it in a different direction?
Well, I will say this, in order to brainwash somebody, this is all well documented, well known. You have to break people's wills down. You have to break them down so you can rebuild them in the image that you want. And the fastest, easiest way to do that is to traumatize them.
Yep.
Okay? In fact, this is as old as history. This is what happens when you take a young kid, and boy or girl, put them in the military. First thing they do is shave off all their hair, put them in a uniform just like everybody else, destroy their individuality, and build them back as a good troop.
Yep.
And that's basically traumatize them.
Yep.
On 9/11, this whole nation was traumatized. And right after that, then they built us back in this national security state, this fear-based society where we've put up with anything. The Nazis, at the height of their power, they didn't dare stop Germans on the street or in a public place and make them strip down and grope their genitals. Mm-hmm. But we put up with it because we've been traumatized and we've been reconditioned to turn our backs on the very principles that founded this country.
And to me, the programming, especially on television, right after 9/11, all over the country, especially in New York, for days and weeks, all they showed was death and destruction, towers coming down, thousands of people dying right in front of us, towers just exploding, and then people from the Muslim faith.
Right.
Towers coming down, people from the Muslim faith. Towers coming down, people from the Muslim faith, over and over and over. They programmed us so well that we were just conditioned not only to believe it, but to invest all of our emotions and all of our feelings into that and do everything in our power to just go support the government because they're the good guys, they're going to help us. But that programming, that I don't think that ever has happened throughout history where just any form of media is just taking over by those two principles: death and destruction, blame, go get these guys.
To a more limited extent here in Dallas, where Al Sharpton just did a story last night, 50 years of guns. That's when America started to talk about gun control after Jack got shot. That's when we went to Vietnam.
Hey, I grew up in Texas. We had guns. We took guns to school. Nobody shot anybody. It's not the guns. In fact, I got a shotgun at home, and you know what? I loaded it, set it by my door. It's been 6 months now, and it hadn't shot anybody. Yeah. I guess I have a defective shotgun.
So these big events have multiple agendas.
Fear-based programming.
Yeah.
How important is fear as a tool of the enemy against the people?
Hermann Goering, head of the Nazi Luftwaffe, at Nuremberg, he laid it out. He said the people don't want war, but they do what the leaders tell them, and to get them to go to war is very easy. He said you just tell them they're being attacked, and then you call anyone who tries to counteract you defeatist and unpatriotic. And wow, doesn't that sound like exactly what we're going through?
Yeah. To me, fear is the biggest weapon, not only against us, but also against them. To me, the biggest secret that I think a lot of people don't understand is that these so-called ruling elites, these so-called powerful men that are the 0.001% of the powerful people in the world, the biggest secret is that these men are more afraid of us than we are of them. And a lot of us don't know that, and a lot of us are afraid of these people, and we look up to them, and we praise them up, and we make them something they're not. But when you actually look them in the eyes, when you face them one-on-one, stare down at them, and tell them, we know what you're doing. Your lies are not going to work. We are waking up. They fold. They run away. They cower. They're afraid. And you could see that human potential, that human power of how exactly afraid they are of us. And if we stop being afraid, there's nothing that could stop human potential from growing and getting rid of these guys.
That's exactly right. And the good news is there's more of us than there are of them. And the thing is, you notice in very recent years now, all of a sudden police are wearing black, they're wearing shields, they're carrying tasers, they're getting militarized, they've got armored vehicles. These ruling elite are running scared. And did they just do this overnight? No, they did that in reaction to a growing consciousness among the public now who are beginning to catch on to them. Not everybody. The people who got the steady paycheck and have the 401ks, they're still going, trying to tell themselves that everything's okay, but it's not. All right.
And if you look at, human psychology, whenever you see someone hurt somebody else, whenever they're angry, whenever they're frustrated, whenever they're just filled with that negative emotion, it ultimately always comes back to the basic principle of fear. So that to me is why these ruling elites are doing so many bad things to us, is because they really are fearful themselves of what they did, fearful of us. They want to have everything for themselves, and that's why they act out, because deep down inside, that anger is really just fear. It's really just insecurity. It's really just a basic small level vibrational energy that they can't deal with.
Systematically compromised in places like Bohemian Grove, where everybody has something on everybody, so they're kind of slaves
and
themselves.
They're afraid of their, secrets coming out.
Hey, consider 1941, when we really had some real enemies. We had the Nazis, and they were building a 3-stage rocket that they called the New York rocket. They had plans for Operation Sea Lion to invade England. The Japanese had attacked us at Pearl Harbor. I mean, these were real enemies. And what did the President of the United States say? He went on national radio and said, "We have nothing to fear but fear itself. Let's buckle down and get it done." And by the way, has anybody besides me noticed that it only took us 3.5 years to win World War II? And it took them more than that long to do the Obamacare website, and they still couldn't get it right.
And we're still in Afghanistan, not even out of that country. I think we have more questions. This came to like a whole panel discussion. Now, I don't know if you want to do this, Jim, but I'm okay with it if you want to do it.
Stop and start again now.
Yes, I was sorry if you guys want to. But if you guys want to ask some questions, I know you had a hand up.
I need a book autograph for a book.
Okay, all right. Jim, again, pleasure. You reached millions of people and you changed millions of lives. You changed mine. And I really appreciate it very much.
Well, again, just remember that there's more of us than there are of them, and if we would let's just all agree to disagree, and we can do it without being disagreeable.
Exactly.
And if we get our act together, we will prevail.
Exactly.
But that's just the warm-up. It gets much better here. Now here, Luke Rudkowski.
When are you going to open up on the Bohemian Grove?
Bye-bye.
What's this picture of?
Voices echo across the